we look at the state of Israel today, there's about 7.5 million Jewish people living here. A lot of those people, let's say about 30–40%, they are what we would call religious Jewish people. Here in Israel, there's so many different kinds of Jews: secular Jews, Reform Jews, Messianic Jews like myself, Orthodox Jews, ultra-Orthodox Jews, Orange Jews, Pineapple Jews, all kinds of Jews we have here. But here's the interesting thing. Just like all of our history, you get a number of our Jewish people, they don't always follow the ways of the Lord. And here at the Dead Sea, I just found out recently, one of the tours that you can sign up for if you want to come to Israel, not just biblical and historical and archaeological tours, you can now sign up for an LGBT tour. And part of that tour, they will bring you down here to the Dead Sea. And what happened here at the Dead Sea, Brandon? This is the region, Sodom and Gomorrah. And they actually put it on their tour. They glorify in it. They take pride in it. And if you go to a city like Tel Aviv, Tel Aviv now is considered the #1 most gay-friendly city in the world. And it's really, like in lots of places in the world, this whole movement is really getting out of line. And, we've talked a lot about the wars in the past and the wars to come in Israel. And we do believe that the favor of the Lord is still on Israel. No question. In 1948, when we became a nation, at the end of the Holocaust, out of the ashes, out of the death, came a resurrection, as it were. But we still have a number of our people. They are not walking in the ways of the Lord. And that's the interesting thing. A lot of people don't know, especially even in the church, where you get this theology called replacement theology. People think that God has given up on Israel. He's finished with them. And I always say, if you look at the order in which the Lord is going to deal with his people, he said through the prophet Ezekiel, I will bring you from the nations, I'll gather you from the nations, and I will bring you back into your land. And who is it that he's going to bring back? His scattered people. Ezekiel calls them the dead bones. So spiritually, they are dead, but he's going to gather these dead bones back. And then the second phase is when he's going to sprinkle clean water upon us, take away our heart of stone, and give us a heart of flesh. It's very similar to the story of Joseph, when the brothers of Joseph threw and, so to speak, crucified their brother. And the Lord raised up Joseph from the pit. And then the brothers, through circumstances, kind of like through the circumstances of the Holocaust, where they were forced to come back home, the brothers were forced to come to Joseph. It's interesting, it says that Joseph had a veil over his eyes. And what did Joseph do? He began to deal with his brothers. He began to test them, to see what was in their hearts. And he made it hard for them. But deep down, he had this great love for them. And at times, he had to walk out of the room and weep. And I think this is the process that we're going through. He's bringing them back. His covenant promise is with them. And but he's going to have to deal with us. And he is dealing with us. And especially those who are not walking in the ways of the Lord. And then, of course, Joseph revealed himself. He revealed and said, I am Joseph. And what's interesting is the revelation he said to them. He said, what you meant for evil, God meant for good. So in God's economy, yes, the Jewish people in large, they have rejected Yeshua, Jesus, but it's all meant for good, for the salvation of the Gentiles. And the time is coming where he's continuing to gather his people back. One of the positives, and I hate to say in the light of the terrible atrocities that's happening in Ukraine, but one of the positives that I've talked about is the Ukrainian Jews are continuing to come back home, as well as the American Jews, all around the world. God said, even to the ends of the earth, I will bring you back. And I'm living testimony. I was born in New Zealand. and the Lord scattered his people to the ends of the earth, and New Zealand is the end of the earth, and he brought me back 30 years ago. So,
Amen.
um,
Well, we got 4 minutes, so let me have you give us. I love that you did that, by the way. We have 4 minutes, so give me a quick geopolitical update on what's happening in Israel. More concern over Iran. We're hearing that they may actually now have something, a nuclear weapon to strap onto a missile. What are you hearing?
well, yeah, in very short time, we hear the story of David and Goliath. It says that Goliath went out for 40 days and nights to torment the Israelites. So what's happening with this guerrilla and psychological warfare? It has now come out this last few days. The Iranian president came out and says that we in Iran now have a new advanced weapon. It is a drone that they say can reach any and every city in Israel. And they are threatening to send these drones. At the same time, they're playing along with the Americans and the United Nations, saying we're going to agree to these nuclear watchdogs that are we're going to allow them to come in, but at the same time they're threatening us. Our defense minister, Benny Gantz, he said that we have now located through satellites and through our intelligence that in Syria we have found 10 cities where the Iranians are stockpiling weapons, and at the same time the Syrians are actually building their actual manufacturing factories, money funded by the Iranians to continue to build weapons. So our defense minister and the Mossad chief, they are saying we are not going to let the Americans or the United Nations, no disrespect to the Americans, but we're not going to let anyone tie our hands. So the talk on both sides, just like the story of David, when they met at two sides of the valley, and of course the spirit of David rose up, and he said, the God who defended me from the hand of the bear and the paw of the lion, he will deliver us. So it's really heating up. They are the
Wow.
main.
And you, so this tell if you've got Iran with 10 different locations in Syria building weapons, and your government is going to have to respond soon to both Syria and Iran.
Yeah, well, Brandon, this is what happened even under the Netanyahu government. And the good thing about our new prime minister, who we don't know how long he's going to be the prime minister, because in 53 days, we're going back to elections. And by the way, that man, Yair Lapid, great man, as far as our military defense goes. He's shown in the last 6 weeks that he's not afraid. He even made some preemptive strikes. That's good that he is at the realm and he's not waiting for things to happen. As we talk, I'm sure that there are talks going on, and even if it has to be without the help of the Americans, which we would prefer that if the Americans came and sided with us in here. And this is why I think the Iranians are trying to walk very calmly and be nice on one hand to the Americans, because they don't want to upset America at the moment, because they know that Israel are ready to pull the trigger. So let's see how this plays out. Keep tuned.
Absolutely. Give your website before we go, will you please?
Yes, thanks, Brandon. So my website, you can actually see it on the screen there after my name, Aaron Levarko, lighttothenationsministry.com. If you would like to know more about the ministry, if you'd like to join in a weekly Bible study that I lead, or Prayer for Israel meeting, or just to find out what our vision is for the ministry, we want to set up a ministry house here in Israel. If you want to support or get behind that, please let me know and contact us.